Okay, got Little Red in the shop today. Need to give her a bath. She's dirty. We get some of these misty, rainy mornings and driving, get all that crap on them. But anyway, I need to give it a bath. But anyway, the reason it's in here, get her hood opened up. I've got air leaking out of my treadle valve. Not sure you can see it, but right here. Shouldn't do that. Got to looking in the book. The book says that, I didn't realize this, but yearly you're supposed to pull these apart or every 100,000 miles and lubricate the seals and check everything out. I didn't know that. Got to read the book, I guess. So anyway, I'm not sure if I'm going to clean it. I think I'm going to clean it. And if I can get it cleaned up, then that'll be good enough. Well, it looks like I got a leak on my, might have a leak on my oil pressure line there that goes into the cab. Probably need to replace that. It's either that or something else leaking. Hard to tell. This thing's dirty. I've got a group of birds that like to, they live under the hood. So when the truck's sitting out here in the yard, there's always birds congregating under here. So, like I say, I need to give it a bath. But to get that valve, to get to that valve, I've got to take off 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 lines. And what you've got is one section does your tractor brakes, the bottom section does your trailer brakes. So you've got a supply line into it, and then you've got application pressure line that goes up into the dash, tells you on your gauge how many pounds of pressure you got on your brakes. Then you've got a stoplight switch that's connected. It's connected through a check valve so that it can either work off the trailer brakes or the tractor brakes, or truck brakes, I guess. And then you've got lines going out to the front and back brakes, or the tractor brakes and trailer brakes. So I got to take all those lines loose, unbolt it inside the cab, and I'll probably just video it after I get it off the truck, unless I come across something interesting to show you. I believe there's 3 bolts inside the truck. It's been so long since I've had this apart. When I first bought this truck, it was in 1998 when I bought it, and it was sitting at a junkyard. But the thing I liked about it, it was near original. I mean, it had the original engine, original rear axle. The wheelbase has not been chopped. This truck came from the factory set up just like it is. This is all the way she came, pretty much. I've got the build book on it. It's got the serial numbers for the front axle, the rear axle, the transmission, which the front axle I did have to replace at one point. This is a B model Kenworth, a W900 B model axle, because I couldn't get brake parts for the old A model axle. They were a wedge style that had been converted over to a S-cam, and the drums were shot, and the drums are impossible to find on them old ones. At least I couldn't find them. So the quick fix was to find a junkyard that had a W900A or B model axle, so that way I could put all new brakes on it. I got new drums, new shoes, new bearings, everything. Hello, Roxy, you old mangy dog. What are you doing today? You gonna say hi? Come on, there you go. Anyway, whenever I bought the truck, I pulled all the airlines off and I replaced them. And when I did, I replaced them with the original type. They're like a braided You can kind of see one here. They're kind of a braided hose, and they got replaceable ends on them. It's probably about due to have them replaced again. It's kind of funny, you don't really think much about buying a 20-year-old truck unless you've owned it for 25. Or it was 25 when I bought it, and it's 50 now. So it's one of those things you just don't really think about. It didn't seem that old at 25 years old, but now she's 50, and of course I'm a little older too, I guess. But anyway, she's been a good truck. I like it because it's simple to work on. It's very basic. It has power steering, it has an air conditioner, everything works. But like I say, I got an air valve I think it's probably got something in the seat. If that's not the problem, then I may have to find me a replacement valve, which I should be able to get one, I think, fairly easy. I think they're pretty common. They're not there's not any rare ones, I don't think. I think I replaced that valve probably when I bought the truck, so it's given me 25 years of service. Plus, I didn't realize you're supposed to clean them every year. So anyway, the old engine's getting pretty tired. I'm probably going to need to do a rebuild on it at some point. I've done one on it. That was about 20 years ago. And the oil sample I got back from it said that it had quite a bit of lead in the oil, which means, and it did have antifreeze in the oil. And I know I've got 2 of my injector cups are seeping a little bit of water. So I think that's how I'm getting coolant in the coolant into the bottom end. Now I'm not sure if fixing the heads would fix it. I've got some head gasket leaks, but I think they're all external. I don't think any of that goes into the crankcase. I could be wrong, but the oil analysis people said I should probably be looking into fixing the leak, and it's due for a set of bearings, I'm sure. Probably might as well put a set of rebuilt heads on it, and I don't know. It's one of them deals where if you do that, are you going to regret it, because the government's going to say next year you can't use this truck anymore. So that's one reason I've been kind of babying along, just taking it easy on it, and she still goes good. Gets me there, gets me home. Yeah, I knew it would just be a matter of time. We would have a ball. Always got a ball. Yeah. I don't like to get her started in the shop playing ball, because then I can't get nothing done. Yeah. She's kind of bossy. She don't want me to work. She wants me to play ball. All the time. Anyway, enough about that. I got to get this brake valve off. But we also have, this line goes up into the dash. I'm going to have to research it a little bit. Anyway, so whenever you get this out, it's kind of spring loaded. There's these little tabs on here that holds that plunger in place, and you can see it's got a little bit of rust, a little bit of dirt in it. This truck doesn't have an air dryer on it, so anything that gets in this thing's going to stay. So there's a seat down in here that this plunger sets against. Or wait, no. Anyway, there's no ring on here. This is a piston. Whenever you push this pedal down, trying to remember how this works now. I gotta take this out. Anyway, when you push the pedal down, it applies air to the air brakes, and then you can stop. That's how that works. I mean, just I'm no expert on this stuff. I know a little bit about it, probably about enough to get me in trouble. But I do know you can clean these parts up, and you can see, well, you can see this is probably the seat that needs to be, it's just got a bunch of stuff embedded in it. It's a rubber seat, but it's got like a bunch of rust stuck in it. I think you can replace these parts in these. I'm going to try to get a number off of it and see if I can't get a rebuild kit for it. If not, I might just go ahead and buy another valve, because that's what's letting it leak right there. This seat actually holds seals up against the inside of here, and it also seals against this here when it's in place. So this is the part that's causing my leak. It's what it's doing is just letting the supply pressure bleed off. It doesn't affect how the brakes work. The brakes work fine. I can push the pedal, brakes work. But this junk that's stuck in that seat right there, that's what's causing my problem. I might be able to reverse that seat. I don't know. But anyway, this stuff, you know, when you get rust in your air tanks and that kind of stuff, it accumulates up in your brake valve, and then you got a problem like I got. So ideally, I should probably take this part number I want to wipe it off. I know I replaced this whenever I bought the truck, so that's probably a newer valve. What I probably should do is replace this valve, because I'm not sure you can get kits for these anymore. Used to, back in the good old days, you could buy parts and rebuild your stuff. Anymore, that's the wrong size. Anymore, you can't do that much. I mean, I can probably clean this up and get it working. And I may go ahead and do that, just put it back together. Still trying to wrap my head around how this thing works. Okay, that comes out, you can pull that apart. So there's not a lot of moving parts in there. I mean, there's this O-ring here. And cleaning this stuff, I'd recommend just use WD-40. It's not going to eat up your O-rings and stuff. And then lubricate your O-rings with some type of grease. I don't know what would be best. O-ring lubricant. That's probably what you should use. Somebody out there probably knows what I should use to lubricate it. I don't. But anyway. Okay, I was going to tell you I could reverse that. You cannot reverse that. That's a replaceable piece. This is just a shield over it. Holds it in place. So I'm just trying to remember how these work. When you push the pedal down, it pushes this plunger down. Okay, against this spring. So picture that, pushing that plunger down. Supply pressure is that's how it works. Supply pressure comes in here. So when you're normally setting the truck's not being braked, you got supply pressure coming in this port and this one. Well, this one actually feeds up to the cab. It's just a pass through. That's what was confusing me there for a minute, but I think that goes up to the air valves in the cab. So when your truck's normally sitting still, you've got, well, I took that spring off, didn't I? When your truck's normally sitting still, you got spring pressure holding this rubber seal up against. It could have been leaking around this O-ring too, but I'm pretty sure it was coming out of the middle. So this actually seals off the air pressure and holds it in this chamber below. Now whenever you apply the brakes, this plunger comes down There's a really good explanation of this on YouTube, I'm sure. This is not it. So normally this is up off of that seat, so it's just sitting there. That's with no brakes. So when you push the plunger down, it unseats that seal in there, and it allows air pressure to come into this chamber. So once that pressure equals how much you're pushing on this, so let's say you push the pedal down, you want 10 pounds of braking pressure, you push the pedal down to that point, this plunger, the air pressure will actually equalize and unseat the valve and shut the airflow off, and it'll just sit there. The seat will still be against the plunger and it'll be holding pressure, and if you want more pressure, this piston here actually just equalizes the pressure. So it's not like an on-off valve where you turn all the air on at once and it stops your truck. So, but this is the culprit of the leaking. It just had a lot of rust embedded in it. Little pieces of, I think they're clean enough anyway. So what I'm going to use is just a silicone base lubricant. From what I read, that's probably about the best thing to put on O-rings. In a situation like this where they're not running in oil, these are just, you know, the air system. It's a fairly dry system. So put that in there, spring on, push that plunger down. Another thing I want to mention is the air system on this truck is nothing like the newer ones. The newer brake valves don't look anything like this. This is an old style, I believe it's called a single stage. I about wiped all the numbers off, so. This is different than what you're going to find on the newer trucks that have the dual air systems. So don't take any of this for, I mean, if you're uncertain about your air brakes, don't mess with them. Or if you like to live on the wild side, I guess you can mess with them, do what you want. I don't know. If you don't know anything about air brakes, you probably shouldn't mess with them. I probably shouldn't mess with them. Just trying to remember how this went here. I think that went like that. So basically this is the plunger that goes in the bottom. And I already forgot one of the pieces that's pretty important. Need that on there. Anyway, that holds together. There's a little keeper that keeps that from blowing out or coming apart. Basically, that sets down in there. A little aluminum washer goes on top. And the snap ring holds everything together. Kind of like that. So you can see that plunger down in there. Now, whenever you apply your brake, I've been looking at this. This chamber should be sealed. I mean, if you cap this pipe off, it should hold air in the bottom chamber. So whenever you go to apply the brakes, this pushes down and contacts that seat, which in turn opens a gap so that the air pressure can flow up in this chamber and go to the brakes. Now once the brakes are at a pressure you like, or once it gets to a point of, so you're giving just a little bit of pressure on the pedal, this piston here will actually let it up until this shuts. And then it's at a state where everything's sealed off, it's balanced, no air is flowing, it's just holding. When you release the pedal, the spring, this big one, pushes this up, unseats this, lets all the air dump out the bottom of this valve. That's the you hear whenever you release your brakes. So that's how it works. I'm almost 100% sure that's how it works. Anyway, I tried to overcomplicate it. It's pretty simple. So I'm gonna lube up everything here. Spring goes in. These are really simple. Got my O-ring in there, got it lubed. Now, this retainer basically this just holds everything in place so that you go to put it on the truck, it doesn't blow apart. So I should be able to apply air pressure to the supply line and cap off. I didn't get that very clean, did I? Got a glob of grease right there. I should be able to cap one of these off and apply air to the other side, and I should be able to test it and see if it's going to hold. If it does, I'm going to take this with me tomorrow and probably go to a truck shop and say, hey, can you get me one of these? And dang it, 14025 I believe is the number on there. So they'll be looking at that saying, I don't know what this is, this looks like an antique. And it is, it's old, but hopefully they can get me one. If not, I can put it back on the truck, probably get by with it for just a bit till I can get either parts. They used to sell rebuild kits for these. I'm going to do some online research, see what I can find. Anyway, I'm going to cap it off, put some air to it, see what happens. Apparatus So this is shut off. At this point, I'm going to apply air pressure to the foot valve. Sounds like something's leaking somewhere. It's probably not going to work. Might be my hose leaking, I don't know. I can hear air coming out of something. Might be just the fittings and stuff, I don't know. Anyway, I can hear air coming out of something, somewhere. So, I need to get another valve, but oh, I'll turn the air off, no wonder. Okay, so it takes quite a little bit of pressure to overcome that supply line pressure. But I think we might actually be holding it. Oh, it's this cap. I didn't tighten that up. That could be what I'm hearing. So I think I did get it to I did get it fixed. So worst case, if I have to order a valve, I can put this on the truck and run it for a little while until I can get a new one. If they don't have one in Oklahoma City tomorrow, I will get one ordered, and I don't have to use the Kenworth tomorrow, but I will need it Tuesday to pick up the backhoe, and then Wednesday going to ConExpo, so I shouldn't need the truck until the following Monday, so that ought to give me time to get a valve ordered if I need one. But this is actually working correctly now, I believe. See if we got any bubbles. We're not letting air out like we were before. So, but that was the problem. I'd park the truck, and then 10 minutes later it's out of air because it just sat there and goodness sakes, you really got to push on that to overcome that. But you got to remember, all that air pressure is holding up on that piston. So say you're driving the truck, push the brake pedal down, it contacts the air valve. Sheesh. It doesn't help that I got 175 PSI on this compressor. Oh. Doesn't help my valve was turned off. Okay, so air pressure. Working right now. I have a leak somewhere. I think it's still leaking out of this fitting right here. Yeah, we're blowing air out of this. This fitting here is not sealed off. These are hydraulic caps. They probably don't really work for this type of fitting. So I think I got it figured out. I think I got it fixed. Like I say, I'm going to take it with me and try to get a new one, and if I can't get a new one, then, well, we'll order one. I replaced this one not too long ago. But this one here doesn't cause any trouble as long as the truck's running. It is a problem whenever you turn the truck off. It wants to sit there and just bleed air out. So get something to hold this. We're gonna just take this apart and see if we can't just clean the valve seat up on it as well. It's a little rusty. I may need to replace this one. But this is the valve. Whenever you want to release your trailer brakes, you push the button in. This is a double-sided rubber seat. So when you push the button in, it seals this hole, puts air pressure through this valve body from the air supply to the trailer valve, or your emergency line. That will actually air up your tank in your trailer, and as well as airs up your tank. Whenever you pull this valve, it releases that line pressure, and there's a valve on the trailer that whenever you release that line pressure, it kills the air to the spring brakes and applies the parking brakes to the trailer, if that makes sense. So the problem I'm having is this valve wants to leak when I pull the valve out. And what's happening there is this valve seat, I believe this is the supply line. So there's a little inner seat there that sits on this surface. So when the valve's out, this should, is that how that works? I think that's how that works. The spring, this little spring holds it. This is the supply line, I was wrong. Pushes that down against there. So whenever you lose air pressure, these will actually automatically apply, which what it does is it automatically shuts the air off to the trailer, and it will lock your brakes up. So I'm going to clean this up, see if it won't seal off. I like to fix things when I can. I mean, not everything can be fixed at home, but kind of makes you feel good knowing that you're not wasting resources flying across the ocean or riding on a ship. One thing I did notice, these screws were a little bit loose. That could have been part of the reason this is leaking. I do got the doors on the shop shut now, so alright, so that should says it's supply here. These valves are all pretty much the same. They got 3 ports usually, and these are 1/8 inch port, so pretty simple. This valve here can actually be a pipe to dump outside the cab. Whenever you pull the line or pull the valve, that'll dump the air outside the cab, make it quieter in the cab, but it ain't so bad just to hear it dump under the dash, I don't think. So anyway, we can put a little air pressure to it and see what it does. Yep, I think we're holding. I need a new air tip. Well, Yeah. Anyway, I think that's gonna work. So I can put that back in the truck. I'll get another one just to have on hand in case it starts goofing up again, but other than that, about all I'm gonna do for today. Okay, I wanted to show you some differences. Like the newer trucks have a dual air pressure gauge on their supply, so they've got what they call a split system. This truck does not. This is a 73 Kenworth, so it's an older system. They went through changes, and I don't know all the details on them. This truck has your normal yellow for tractor. This is your tractor. You push to apply you pull to apply your park brakes. You push to release them. It also has a second blue switch. This is there's a second air tank on the truck. I need to get a check valve for that because it should still have air in it, but it works like a second system. So let's say your compressor fails, you're in an intersection, your valve pops, you can't get moving. You can push in this blue knob and it'll give you a short supply of air so that you can get out of the intersection or out of the bad spot you're in. This still works. Like I say, I need a check valve on my air tank. I just noticed it should have air in it right now, so the air tank's not holding. But anyway, in normal, you don't use that one. You normally just push this one in, you push this one in. This is one I was working on the bench a while ago. And you'll notice they don't stay in until you get air pressure. So whenever you push them in, the air pressure comes in behind that piston and holds it shut. Now when you lose air pressure, the spring overcomes it at about 35, 40 psi, and it lets those pop out. So, you know, basically, other than that, the air system, you've got a trailer Johnson bar, I don't know, there's several names for these, but this is your trailer brake supply. You can actually apply your trailer brakes without truck brakes with that, and the farther you pull it, the more pressure it puts on, kind of like a pedal. The harder you push, the more you get. Anyway, truck's dirty. I need to give it a good cleaning, but it's a working truck. It's not a show truck. I've never really planned for it to be a show truck. It has done me well though since '99 when I started my business. That's when I started using this truck. So pretty good old girl. I like it. Pretty happy with it. Got an air ride cab. The single axle spring ride truck, if you don't have an air ride cab, it will beat you to death. And I've thought about trying to get an air ride for it, but it works so well the way it is, I kind of hate to mess with it. So if it ain't broke, don't fix it.